Thank you for joining this evening to the Celebrating Hebbar event. I am D.A. Prasanna. I am the convener of the Professor S Achutarao History Endowment, which has, along with the K.K. Hebbar Art Foundation and the Manipal Academie of Higher Education, brings you this program today. The program starts with Hebbar and how he inspired Lena Vincent. So she, as a young person when Hebbar was alive, and his works when his centenary was done, how she was influenced, is the first talk you will hear. Then we have a book released today. This is an English translation of K. Saradas Bhatt's book, which is a biography on Hebbar. And Dr. Vinod Bhatt from Mahe, grown up in the same region as Hebbar, will relate his views to you on Hebbar and this book. The book will be released by General Venkatesh, Vice Chancellor of Manipal Academy of Higher Education, and he takes us to the future. With the patronage and vision of the Pai family and the Hebbar family, the trustees of the K.K. Hebbar Foundation gave 25 original portraits done by Hebbar of various people, and a portrait gallery has been established in the university campus. And the role of such art space and how art, music, dance, culture will develop all round students, and what is the potential of the role that can be played by the gallery is what General Venkatesh is going to touch upon. We have two films. These films are scripted by Shrejana Kaikini, who was the first curator of the Hebbar Gallery and Art Center. And she brings out a fact that apart from being a renowned artist and his art having a huge impact on the art scene in India, Hebbar was also an institution builder, and how he changed the art scene has the views of Pushpamala, Sheila Gowda, K.G. Subramaniam, and Chiranjeev Singh. And you will find it interesting to watch this film. The second film is about the Hebbar Gallery and Art Center and its evolution over the 5 years as an art hub and the impact it is having on the art and culture scene in the region. And so this evolution is again scripted by Shrejana Kaikini, and she is going to also give you a peek into the gallery. I thank BIC and Mahe for making available their platform to further the legacy of Hebbar and continue to have an impact on the art and culture of India. Thank you.
I'm Lena Vincent, an art historian and curator based currently in Goa. I thank the Hebbar Gallery and Arts Center for inviting me to be part of this program. I had the opportunity to assist Ms. Rajini Prasanna, Ms. Rekha Rao during their curation of Artist's Quest, a retrospective of KK Hebbar that took place in 2011 at the National Gallery of Modern Art, which went on to show in several different cities in India. While my studies in art history did introduce me to KK Hebbar's work to a small extent, it was in fact during this exhibition that I truly understood the vastness of KK Hebbar's repertoire as well as the prominence of his contributions to Indian art. It is the kind of work that draws one in slowly. His portraits, line drawings, watercolors, tempera paintings, as well as the incredibly diverse canvas works all reflect a very intrinsic language that he developed and that was purely his own. His art was an amalgamation of his deep engagement with dance and music, with literature and folklore, with his own roots and his ancestry, as well as his friendships and his social life. While he was prolific in doing more academically oriented portraits, human forms, landscapes, and others, his personal vision was oriented towards symbolic representations and more organic articulation of narratives. Looking at some of his paintings, like The Birth of Bangladesh or The Ritual, a painting that I was deeply impacted and deeply inspired by, uh, one can one can see a very distinctive and expressive use of space and color and also line. Every dab of impasto paint that he applied, or every line that he drew, appeared to develop a kind of meaning on its own. And a work called The Pull, which almost moved towards abstraction in their textural quality, where the forms actually subtly meld into each other and into a background. It is like he set out to depict the core essence of these atmospheres or objects or structures and not their external qualities, as it were. One does feel a very emotional response to them. The innate poetry of his works is also extremely palpable in his line drawings, the singing lines, of course. I also recall the number of fluid sketches he has done of all the places he visited, and the ones that I remember from the exhibition are, of course, the ones from Warsaw and Europe that he had traveled, I think, during the 50s and the 60s. It's wonderful and inspiring that K.K. Hebbar's legacy continues and that so many of his paintings, and particularly the large collection of portraits, are to be seen in the gallery at Manipal.
K.K. Hebbar is undoubtedly the most celebrated of artists to have emerged from South Canada. It's difficult, almost impossible, to describe the man's work and his contribution. At a time when innovation and brilliance in art seemed to come only from Europe, here was a wizard who made India proud by his work. And at a time when he was barely recognized for what he was, it was Europe again which gave Hebbar the opportunity and the impetus to excel and to shine. And shine he did like a bright star in the universe of artists. Hebbar's early landscapes borrowed heavily from the verdant beauty of South Canada. The swaying green paddy fields, the flowing rivulets and streams, the distant grey hills of the Western Ghats, and the languid azure of the Arabian Sea influenced his work, which came to be loosely and often wrongly called the Kerala face. I would reckon a Canada face would have been more apt to describe this body of work. Hebbar was a versatile artist. He went beyond sketching and painting to other art forms like music, dance, folk art, literature and the like. As an art administrator, he stood for all things ethical and supported the cause of artists. On this, the 110th birth anniversary of K.K. Hebbar, we celebrate his life through his works. Mahe is fortunate to house the Hebbar Art Gallery. This is the university's unique gateway for art outreach, supported and closely supervised by the family consisting of Rekha Rao, Ranna Hebbar, Rajni Prasanna and Mr. D.A. Prasanna. Manipal Universal Press, the publication division of Mahe, is honored to release a translated biography of K.K. Hebbar from the original in Kannada written by the late Kushi Haridas Bhatt. I hope this effort of enshrining KK Hebbar in Mahe, disseminating scholarship and nurturing young talent will identify and promote more geniuses like Hebbar in the near future. Thank you.
Namaste to each one of the dignitaries assembled for the event. This is Sandhya Vasudev representing the translator duo of Rukma Vasudev and Sandhya Vasudev. We have been requested to speak a few words on a journey of translation of the renowned Sri K.K. Hebbar's biography, the original written in Kannada by the distinguished Sri Haridas Bhatt. Well, we approached our task with an open mind, and that seemed to have helped in the smooth translation of the Kannada text, which had quite a few technical terms. By the way, we hail from Udupi, and this fact indeed generated a wave of affection in us towards Sri Hebbar, and we soon started referring to him as Hebbar Ajja in our mutual conversation. Our hearts went out to him for the trials and tribulations that he faced in his life, even as we felt a sense of pride as he tasted huge success down the line. At the same time, we got to know him as a person who had been sincere, hardworking, principled, and humble to the core, the same qualities that we both have always stood by. Must say, we did put in a bit of research for the technical terms and foreign names found in the text, and I should necessarily thank my son-in-law Prasad, a scientist by profession, who spared his valuable time to help out on this. I also thank Manipal Universal Press, with special mention of Mrs. Neeta Inamdar, who extended good support, and the work sailed smoothly and got completed towards the end of 2017 or perhaps early 2018. Rukma and I then looked forward to the grand launch of the book, but it got delayed, and when we finally got to see the soft copy last October or November, we felt really happy. But my dynamic daughter Rukma never got to see the hard copy, which would have thrilled her no end. You see, she transited to the eternal abode of Lord Krishna on Kartik Ekadashi day. Ever exuberant, she would have been the one speaking for us today. All said and done, I am grateful for Hebbar Ajja's journey that we both did together. I hope the book is read from multiple perspectives, ranging from the mainly artistic to the emotional and humanistic elements that Sri Hebbar's life projected. Thank you for your patience. Hare Krishna.
Greetings, dignitaries and viewers. It fills me with great joy to be part of this enterprising book launch, the translated edition of my father's original Kannada book on one of India's celebrated contemporary artists, Sri K.K. Hebbar. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate and thank the translators, editors, publishers on behalf of the Kushi family. Hope the book provides its readers with great insight into the life and work of K.K. Hebbar. Thank you.
Greetings from Manipal Academy of Higher Education, an institution of eminence deemed to be university. On the occasion of commemoration of the 110th birth anniversary of late Sri Kattingeri Krishna Hebbar, popularly known as K.K. Hebbar, on behalf of Mahe, I extend a very, very warm greetings to all of you. K.K. Hebbar, one of the most prominent modernist artists in India, hailed from Kattingeri, a village in South Canara in Karnataka, and is best known for his work not only as an artist but also as an art educationist and institution maker. With a view to nurture a university that is at par with the leading global institutions of education and learning, we at MAHE believe that it is imperative that the student community looks at development with a multidisciplinary approach. Compartmentalizing streams of education hampers a rich exchange and collaboration that is essential for minds to think outside of the box, foster experimentation, inventiveness, and ultimately excellence. We endeavor to encourage students who may be pursuing diverse fields of education like medicine, architecture, or engineering to engage with music, dance, and visual arts in a sophisticated and curated manner. One pivotal step in that direction was the establishment of Hebbar Gallery and Art Center, a space that nurtures and encourages creative expression and art pedagogy. Hebbar Gallery and Art Center welcomes cross-disciplinary engagement with artists and other cultural practitioners with the aim to encourage a deeper and a more meaningful relationship between the student communities in the region and art. The ethos of K.K. Hebbar as being a visionary and an institutional builder, along with being a celebrated artist himself, is a legacy that MAHE is proud to be associated with. We hope to honor and extend such ethos by creating a space for different art forms, including performing arts of this region of South Canara in the next couple of years. This is also in line with the national education policy, and the university has already prepared plans that would be implemented step by step and in an inclusive manner, taking artists, writers, poets, performing artists of this region. This would be a critical step by MAHE towards encouraging students to engage with arts in a meaningful way and for them to think outside of their curriculum and develop themselves as a well-rounded individuals and leaders of the future. I express our gratitude to Mr. D.A. Prasanna, Mrs. Rajni Prasanna, and the family of Mr. K.K. Hebbar for their continued support and close association with MAHE and for their philanthropic and intellectual support that they extend to MAHE. The Hebbar Gallery and Art Center is one of the shining examples of their benevolence. I feel honored and privileged to release this book on K.K. Hebbar today, brought out by our own Manipal Universal Press. I wish the book reaches artists, art lovers, and readers all over the country and inspire many more people to venture into the world of art. I wish Hebbar Gallery and Art Center all the success in the years to come and assure of MAHE's continued support in its growth and prosperity. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Having had formal artistic training from Sir J.J. School of Art in Bombay and later at the Academie Julian in Paris, Hebbar taught art at the J.J. School for many years and was sought after as an art mentor by several institutions. While his early works reflect an influence of the academic style, as can be seen in his paintings like Lady from Kerala, which is at the gallery at Manipal, he belongs to the generation of painters who allow themselves to be influenced by the world and try to grapple with an art world continually re-enunciating the art process. His later travels across the world, especially to Europe and the Far East, including Japan, Indonesia, therefore had a significant influence on him and made him redefine his style, which became more globally encompassing, abstract, also symbolic. The portraits reflect a more intimate and personal mode of the artist's interaction with his contemporaries. And people in his world, including anonymous faces, feature as familiar strangers in these portraits, sort of a kinship cluster that forms around his experiential world, where Hebbar's style evolved from the depictive towards the abstract. The major medium of his works in the end became oil on canvas, and it was also complemented by an equally robust body of work in the medium of line drawing, the style famously called the singing lines, attributed by the writer Mulk Raj Anand. Hebbar's singing lines were particularly distinct, and I'd like to say something about his singing lines. Hailing from Kattingeri, a village near Udupi, he had grown up in a musical environment which was rich with performative traditions like Yakshagana. His long-standing friendship with the cultural polyglot, Dr. Shivram Karant, who also hailed from the same region, is well known. So Hebbar learned dance also from Birju Maharaj. He learned Kathak, not only for understanding the dance as a practitioner, but to understand the sense of rhythm that came with dance. And the sense of rhythm started reflecting in his artworks. His singing lines adeptly capture the vibrant energy of Yakshagana dancers in elaborate costume, complete with a headdress, a ketki muddale they say, and the breastplate, the kavacha. In face, the tiny headdress actually, the one that is worn by the female characters in Yakshagana, was actually an introduction for the costume of female roles by Shiram Karant on suggestion from Hebbar, and that is what historical legend goes by. There is a cluster of paintings at the gallery which is dedicated to contemporaries of Hebbar. And so the most prominent contemporaries of Hebbar in Bombay were the Bombay Progressive Artist Group of the time. These included artists like F.N. Souza, S.H. Raza, M.F. Hussain, K.H. Ara, Gade, also Bakre, and so on. So Hebbar had grown up amongst a musical environment, and his sort of tradition was also deeply, entangled with kinship with figures like Shivram Karat. Hebbar's portraits are a testimony to these historical figures, friendships, his professional relationships that existed and constituted the world of him as an artist, and also perhaps shaped his worldview. Art historically, portraiture has close links with the tradition of masks and performative practices, which are closely related also to styles of realism, expressionism, representational work, as well as anti representational aesthetics. So, an instance of this is evident in one of the paintings of Hebbar of his portraiture of Ara, and you can see the expressionist aesthetic being reflected with the sudden splash of green that he attributes to Ara's face right in the center. And while some formal traditions of art criticism would maintain that the model in a portrait is a mere scaffolding on which the artist builds up form, others define it as perhaps a biography in a kernel. And so his portraits of his creative contemporaries reflect this very deep entangled web of the artist's kinship that formed and informed, you may say, his aesthetic. About his socio-political world, Hebbar's portraits, particularly in this collection at the Hebbar Gallery, reflect a different mode of artistic engagement with his world, also with his family, with his and also his concerns about larger socioeconomic issues around the world at that time, during his contemporary in his time. And so the artist's emergence is intrinsically linked to dedicated friendships and patronage that supports and makes possible his freedom and also his voice to come to the fore. So, and there are a wide array of political leaders and patrons that are portrayed in moods that are not quite the ones that are, acceptable mainstream. So their political leaders are shown in domestic, intimate, informal, introspective moods, and the side of which we as a public never get access to. And regarding the artist's family, there is a cluster of paintings dedicated to the family of the artist in the gallery. And this cluster depicts Hebbar's family as a personal rendering of the artist's understanding of spaces in their domestic habitat and the way in which this domestic world sort of come through, right? And an abstracted portraiture of, for instance, his two daughters, Rekha and Rajni, but the portraiture is very distinct through a flat geometric aesthetic. And it sort of resonates with another ink drawing of two sisters, which is very minimal in content but represents the form which repeats across these two works. Hebbar's wife, Srimati Sushila Hebbar, and mother Sitama are portrayed within frames that include detailed elements marking their environment. For instance, in the portrait of Sushila Hebbar, a painting is depicted as resting in the background of the central figure, and in the portrait of Sitama, a tulsi katte in the courtyard can be seen in the backdrop. So these portraits bring to the fore entire worlds and with the people associated within these worlds, and reflect his shift from focus on merely portraying the subject to also portraying the subject as located within worlds and details that inform these worlds. So that's why these particular portraits of his family members are distinct in their detailing, not just of the subjects involved, but also of the backgrounds which contextualize these subjects. I hope you all get a chance to visit the gallery anytime you are in Manipal. And also contribute to its sustenance, to its growth, so that the ecosystem around artistic practice, especially in centers that are not urban, that are not the cosmopolitan usual suspects, where such artistic traditions already are thriving. So the idea of evolving, hubs around arts practice, creative practices in centers around Udupi is to sort of encourage creative engagement and creative economy in the so-called smaller places where there is as rich a tradition of arts, culture, heritage as any other place, and which actually would thrive with the larger support of the cultural community around. Hebbar has been a prominent intellectual figure in the regional and global artistic sensibility, be it Karnataka, be it across India, or across the world. My close engagement with Hebbar's legacy was during my role as the curator of the K.K. Hebbar Gallery and Art Center at Manipal University. The gallery houses a growing collection of works in the region native to Hebbar. Hebbar is an inspirational, institutional figure in more ways than one. He was a sensitive artist who responded to his times and evolved his own unique abstractionist aesthetic that often focused on capturing experiences onto the canvas. Apart from his artistic legacy, Hebbar is significant as an institutional figure, one who encouraged several young artists through scholarships and institutional encouragement to evolve their own practice, many of whom today have become renowned worldwide as contemporary artists. Speciality of the KK Hebbar Gallery and Art Center at Manipal University is that it houses the largest collection of Hebbar's portraits, all housed in one place together, including a self portrait of his bust. So I would say that generally, Hebbar, hailing from Kattingeri, which is very close to Udupi, which is very close to Manipal, where this gallery is located, it was a very innovative as well as a thoughtful gesture. KK Hebbar Artists Trusts to donate these paintings so that the university houses them in this gallery. Hebbar's contribution to art history in India could be seen as something of a larger humanist gesture, something which historian Suresh Jairam calls as the humanist vision as his legacy. So his legacy is that of an embedded art practice, I would say, one which is connected with life and its people and the way in which the artist witnessed the world around him.